Yep, I am your cool slutty daddy.
How Pedro Pascal became the internet's favorite dad. He wasn't born into fame. He didn't grow up on red carpets or in headlines. He didn't debut with fireworks or studio fanfare. In fact, for a long time, he was barely there, present but unnoticed. And yet, here he is now, suddenly everywhere. The unmasked voice behind a galactic bounty hunter, the weary guardian in a world infected by loss, the charming face on late-night interviews, the soft, knowing smile in every viral meme, a man the internet calls Dad, or more precisely, Daddy.
Yep, I am your cool slutty daddy.
He trends not just once, but again and again, and not just for a performance, but for being himself, awkward, tender, fierce, funny, tired, and real. But it wasn't always like this. For nearly 2 decades, Pedro Pascal played in the shadows, bit parts, forgotten faces, auditions that led nowhere, a talent waiting for a door that wouldn't open. And now, all at once, the world can't seem to get enough of him. But what changed? Why now? Did the industry evolve? Or did we, as an audience, finally become ready for someone like him? This isn't just a story about fame. It's a story about timing, about perseverance, and about a man who didn't push to be seen, but became impossible to ignore. This is Pedro Pascal, the internet's favorite dad, and maybe the star Hollywood didn't know it needed. Before Pedro Pascal became a household name, he was the kind of actor you'd see in a scene, and forget by the time the credits rolled. Not because he lacked talent, not because he didn't show up, but because Hollywood didn't know where to place him. He wasn't white enough to be the lead, wasn't ethnic enough to be typecast, and wasn't loud enough to demand attention. Instead, he waited, for years. For almost 2 decades, Pedro Pascal walked through a revolving door of nameless cops, shirtless victims, and blink-and-you-miss-it side characters. He died on screen. A lot. He auditioned and re-auditioned. He took jobs that paid little and gave less. He'd walk onto a set, say 3 lines, maybe none, then disappear. In shows like Law and Order, Touched by an Angel, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and CSI, he was there, briefly. Sometimes as gang member number 2, sometimes just as a body. He once joked, "I died so much I started to wonder if I was bad luck." And the truth is, he kind of was. Because no matter how hard he tried, his name never stuck, his presence never stayed, and each time a new opportunity came, it vanished just as quickly. Still, he didn't quit. He kept showing up, kept taking calls, kept hoping the next one would be different, and eventually it was. In 2014, at the age of 39, Pedro Pascal played Oberyn Martell in Game of Thrones, a role that should have been just another short-lived character. But it wasn't. People noticed. He brought swagger, vulnerability, elegance, and rage, and somehow made an entire world grieve his death after only 7 episodes. It wasn't just the way he died. It was the way he lived in that role. And suddenly, the door wasn't just cracked open anymore. It was waiting for him to walk through. After 2 decades in the dark, Hollywood finally turned the lights on. Before the world fell in love with Pedro Pascal, he lost the person who loved him the most. In 2000, when Pedro was just 24, his mother, Veronica Pascal, died by suicide. She was a respected child psychologist in Chile and the light of Pedro's life. He never talked much about it, not for years, but when he finally did, his voice was quiet, his face still. She was the love of my life. He didn't say it for sympathy. He said it because it was true. Veronica had always believed in him. She encouraged his acting dreams, pushed him to audition, even when there was no money, no visa, no safety net, and then she was gone. Just as his career was beginning to flicker, the person he wanted to share it with disappeared. He later said, "My whole life is a tribute to her." It was in her memory that he changed his name. Born Pedro Balmaceda, he took her last name, Pascal, as a way of keeping her with him, of carrying her on every script, every poster, every screen. It was a way to keep her alive, he once explained, and to make sure I never forgot why I was doing any of this. For years, that grief stayed quiet. It lived in the background of every dead-end audition, every almost breakthrough. He smiled and joked and kept going. But some silences stay longer than others. He once told an interviewer, "There are ghosts that walk with me." I don't try to leave them behind. I let them come. Maybe that's what gives him weight on screen. That sense of sorrow you can't quite name. That aching kindness behind the eyes. The internet may love Pedro Pascal for being their dad, but before he ever played one, he had to learn what it means to lose a parent, to carry them through life without ever hearing their voice again. He doesn't wear his pain like a badge. He carries it like a memory. And in doing so, he became something few actors ever manage, deeply human, before he was ever famous. In 2014, the phone rang. It was HBO. A new season of Game of Thrones, a new character, and a new chance. Pedro Pascal had just sent in a tape, an iPhone recording from a hotel in Argentina, propped against a wall by his friend Sarah Paulson. He didn't expect much. By then, he'd learned not to expect too much. But somehow, he got the part, Oberyn Martell, the Red Viper, a role that would last only 7 episodes, but would change everything. He walked into that story with a kind of fire, fierce, seductive, deadly, but beneath the swagger there was sorrow, that quiet ache Pedro carried with him. Suddenly, the world could see it. I was just trying not to screw it up, he later said. I knew what that show meant to people. I didn't want to be the weak link. He wasn't. His final scene, his death, became one of the most unforgettable in television history. It shocked people. It broke them. And in the wreckage, a star was born. After Thrones, doors started to creak open. Not swing wide, but at least not locked anymore. Then came Narcos. Pedro played Javier Peña, a DEA agent caught between loyalty and loss. The show was brutal. So was the role. But this time he didn't die. He stayed. And people followed, but it wasn't until 2019, nearly 25 years after his first audition, that Pedro Pascal finally landed the kind of role actors dream of. A helmet, a blaster, a baby in a floating pod. The Mandalorian. I didn't even know what I was auditioning for, he said. They were so secretive. I just knew it was Star Wars. And that was enough. And suddenly, Pedro Pascal wasn't just on screen, he was the screen. Toy shelves, billboards, Halloween costumes. For the first time in his life, people were dressing up as a character he played, and they weren't dying. They were protecting. They were becoming. The man who once played corpses and criminals was now the quiet protector of a found family. And somehow, we trusted him to carry the galaxy. Pedro Pascal never chased heartthrob status. He didn't sculpt his body for the big screen. He didn't flash abs, flex jawlines, or post thirst traps. And yet, he became a sex symbol, a meme, an icon. Not by playing the part, but by being exactly who he already was. The internet didn't fall in love with Pedro Pascal because he was perfect. It fell in love because he was awkward, because he was soft, because he looked tired in interviews and still showed up smiling, because he didn't try to seem bigger than life, just human enough to hold space in ours. "I'm your cool, slutty daddy," he once joked. A throwaway line, a meme in seconds, but behind the laugh was something real. A man who didn't mind being seen as vulnerable, even ridiculous. He held Baby Yoda with both arms and a crooked grin. He took selfies with fans in baggy sweaters and no makeup. He cried on the red carpet when someone mentioned his sister. And when asked about being called daddy online, he blushed and said, "I don't understand it, but I kind of love it." His image flooded TikTok and Tumblr, not from studio PR teams, but from fans who stitched together his interviews, his quirks, his coffee runs, his kindness. In an industry obsessed with sculpted masculinity, Pedro offered something else: warmth, kindness, a gentle presence that didn't need to dominate to be strong. He wasn't threatening. He wasn't untouchable. He wasn't cold. He was safe. And maybe that's why people trust him, not just as a warrior or a father on screen, but as a human being. He supports LGBTQ's rights not as a brand move, but because his sister is trans, and he's proud of her. He defends co-stars not for the cameras, but because that's who he is. "I don't want to be a voice for anything," he once said, "but I do want to stand beside the people I love." Pedro Pascal became the internet's daddy, not by being tough, but by being tender. He didn't make people swoon with six-packs or smirks. He made them feel safe. He made them feel seen. And in a noisy world, being safe with someone like Pedro Pascal, feels like falling in love quietly. Pedro Pascal didn't force his way into fame. He didn't manufacture it, didn't market himself into a phenomenon. He arrived quietly, almost reluctantly, as if he never expected the world to look his way, and was still a little surprised when it finally did. "I just want to do good work," he once said. "That's all I ever wanted." And maybe that's why people believe in him, because you can't fake gentleness. You can't manufacture sincerity. And Pedro Pascal never needed to pretend. He doesn't walk red carpets with ego. He doesn't talk about himself like a brand. He still signs autographs like he might not be asked again. He still says thank you like he means it. And when people cry meeting him, he doesn't deflect. He listens, not like a star, like a person. He isn't flashy. He isn't performative, but he's present. In an industry where everything feels temporary, Pedro Pascal feels like something steady, the kind of person you want to see succeed, not because he played your favorite character, but because he reminds you of someone you miss, someone who tried, someone who stayed soft in a hard world. He's not the kind of actor who takes up all the space. He makes space for others to shine, for stories to breathe, for people to feel safe being themselves. And that's rare, because most stars are loud. They burn fast. They pull everything toward them. But Pedro, he warms the room. He makes people feel seen. And when he leaves something softer behind. His fame didn't explode. It built quietly, moment by moment, with every person who said, "I don't know why, but I trust him." Maybe that's what makes him unforgettable. Not how brightly he shines, but how gently he lets others see themselves in his light.